Hello again guys, it's me Unstable Voltage and welcome to a brand new series of Europa Universalis IV. I'm sure a few of you are wondering why I've started a new series, and the main reason for that is when I was doing my last series I wanted it to be a set of tutorial videos. And while I feel that I did cover most of the basic principles and mechanics of the game, it was starting to get difficult to cover a specific topic on every individual video because the pace of the game isn't always what you expect it's going to be, and I was finding that I was at a point where I was starting to try and talk about things that hadn't actually happened yet, and I couldn't really show you what I was talking about. So, as a few of you had asked me to do this, I've decided to actually start a game. So what I'm going to be doing is playing through a single player game, just normally as if I would be without recording, but I will be explaining what I'm doing as I'm going through, and hopefully it will make a little bit more sense in context as the game plays through. I have decided I am going to play this game as England. I've actually never played as England before in EU4. They are supposed to be one of the easier nations to play, although it has to be said that the game is quite difficult anyway, and I'm not all that good at it. As I'll say this, I've said it on the previous video and I'll say it again. I do not make any claims to be professional at this game. I know the mechanics relatively well enough to play the game and enjoy it, but I still learn new things about it all the time. But I'm not a particularly skilled player when it comes to this game. But the idea of this series of videos is it is supposed to be for beginners. It's so you can grasp the basics and be able to get in there and play the game, because I feel that the tutorials for this game aren't very good. Now, England just starts off as England, but you can form the British nation later on, so that is a goal we'll be heading towards. Let's just go in and have a quick look at our nation and just see what things we've got going on. So I'm just going to right click on my nation, and that will bring up the diplomacy screen for the entire nation. The other way of getting to that, of course, as I've said before, you can click on the shield and click on the diplomacy tab. So we can see our king. It's King Henry VI of Lancaster, who is a really crap king because he has no admin, no diplomatic and no military skill. You always, when playing as England, you always start the game allied with Portugal. You always start the game rivaled with France. Now, we only have one rival. We don't have two. Now, this means that we do have too few rivals, which means we lose power projection. Not enough rivals, so we're actually gaining one power projection per year for having a long-time rival, which is France, but we're also losing one a year for not having enough rivals. The problem is we can't actually set any more rivals because we are at war. So England always start in a war with France for the 100 Years' War, and that is something that we are going to have to contend with. Now, Aragon have set us as their rivals, so have Denmark, and so have Burgundy. That's fine. One of the important things as the game of England, really, is who Castile ally themselves with. Now, Castile have set Monaco as their rival. No, Monaco have set Castile as their rival. Castile have set both France and Aragon. Now, Castile usually rival Aragon anyway. The point is, sometimes they will rival France, and sometimes they will rival England. What you really want is them to rival France. If they haven't rivaled France and they've rivaled England, you might want to restart the game there and then, because that make life a lot more difficult. Because France are a bit of a pain. Now, looking at France, they actually look like they're quite small, because France is the blue bit. If we just zoom out, you can see this blue area is France. However, what you have to remember is that most of these little areas here are actually French vassals. So Brittany is a French vassal, Provence is a French vassal, Bourbon is a French vassal. So a lot of this is actually France. Now, England does actually start with some territories overseas. We do actually have Gascogne over here and Labour. We also have Normandy and Co, and we have Calais as well. Now, the chances are we're probably going to lose these in the 100 Years' War against France. It's worth noting, of course, if you don't know your history, that England did not win the 100 Years' War historically. However, it is actually possible to win the war in this game, though it is incredibly difficult. There is a technique for doing it, and I have tried it 2 or 3 times and failed every single time, which basically means picking up all of your troops and moving them to Bern, which is very, very mountainous. And the good thing with it being mountainous is if you get there and you're defending it, the French keep throwing their troops at you, and you nearly always get the bonus, well, they get the penalty for attacking into the mountains. And the idea of that is you want to weaken France's army enough so that Burgundy declare war on them. And then when Burgundy declare war on them, you're supposed to rush in and take Paris. Now, I have gotten as far as that before. I've never actually got further than 19% war score, because what you're ultimately aiming for in this war against France is if you can get 84% war score, you can actually get a personal union, which basically means you can integrate France into England, which is fantastic if you can eliminate France from the game that early. However, France has a lot more men than you do, they have a lot more manpower than you do, and they usually have better generals, so it's probably not worth trying to take them on. You'll usually just end up getting yourself killed. So let's have another look at the state of play. Let's just have a very quick look at the diplomatic map mode. So you can see England control all of the English provinces, as well as controlling Meath, one of the provinces in Ireland. The other 4 provinces in Ireland are all independent, as is Scotland. We've got these provinces over here in France. We also have a corps on Armagnac and a corps on Picardy, but we can't really take any of those, as I have just discussed. Now let's have a quick look at our missions that we currently have. Oh yeah, by the way, if we scroll down, we can see that Portugal is blue because they are our allies. So, missions that we have: solidify our papal relations, not too bothered about that early on. Occupy Paris, well, we've already discussed how difficult that's going to be, and it will only give us 5 prestige. Now, the other option is to improve our prestige, and that will actually give us 1 stability, which is very, very nice to have. So that's the mission we're going to take. It's a very, very good first mission. You can easily get your prestige up to 50 by doing a few wars, not necessarily with France. We can fight with Scotland and other people. Now, our most important decision is our national decision, which is to form Britain. Now, we do need an administrative technology of at least level 10 to do so, so we can't do it just yet. We need to be at peace. We need to own London, Oxfordshire and Wessex. We also need to own Lothian and Aberdeen. Well, those are here and here, so we are going to be going towards Scotland. Also worth noting who Scotland is at war with. Scotland are having their independence guaranteed by France. Well, we're already in a war with France anyway, and Scotland aren't currently allied with anybody, which is very useful. So, there are a few things as England that we are going to want to do very, very early on in the game. First of all, what we want to do is have a look at our advisors, because you don't start with any. Now, we're currently not making any military power, and the reason we're not making any military power is because England starts with 3 leaders, but they can only really support 1, so we're not making any military power at all. Now, they all have 3 maneuver, and then they have 6 other points that split between fire and shock. Now, early on in the game, shock is much more useful, so we definitely want to try and keep Richard Plantagenet. Richard Neville's a close second contender, and Henry Percy is probably the weakest. I'm going to dismiss him straight away, because that will actually then save me 1 military power per turn. Or per month. I'm also going to untick the national focus on diplomacy to even everything out across the board, and that will actually give me a little bit more military power. Now, we are going to be having a war or two, because we're going to be going to war with Scotland, so it is going to be worth having a military advisor, and one that gives us an extra 5 discipline, which would be really good. All these ones are level 1. I mean, it will be random which option you get. National manpower modifier, National manpower modifier is useful, because you only have 27,000 men, well, altogether about 31,000 men maximum, which is why it's very, very difficult to actually take on France, because if we go down here and look at the ledger, which is shortcut L, if we look at the military and look at armies, if we go and find England have a total of 37,000 men with 27,000 in reserve. If you then look at France have a total of 30,000 men and 30,000 manpower in reserve. Now, the reason France is still more difficult to take is because that only counts France. That's not counting all of these other provinces, which are basically vassals of France. They all have their own militaries as well, so it really stacks up. If we actually click on the war button, you can see how many subject nations are involved in this war. So there's France, there's Armagnac, there's Averny. You'll have to excuse me because I'm terrible with foreign place names. Bourbonnais, Foix, Lorraine, Orleans, Provence. So they're all involved in that. And you can actually see that they have a total of 53,000 infantry compared to our 27,000 infantry, and 16,000 cavalry compared to our 10,000 cavalry. So they are much, much bigger than us in terms of the number of units they have. So we will be going to war against Scotland. So we will get ourselves an advisor. The manpower is nice, but I don't think we need it. The land maintenance modifier would save us a bit of money per month, but having the discipline is going to make us stronger in battle. So we're going to choose discipline. So let us do that. And we're not going to bother with the other two advisors just for now, because we want to save a little bit of money. Now, another thing that England starts with is 2 different fleets. They've got one fleet which is made up of 21 light ships. Now, light ships are usually used for trade. You do have to be careful, of course, if you are at war, because they could actually end up getting sunk if you're not careful. And the other fleet is made up of 14 heavy ships and 15 transports. What we're going to do is instantly select the heavy ships, because if you actually look here, we're losing money. And out of the money we're losing 11.17 ducats per turn, or per month, for not that one, that's the army fleet maintenance. We're losing 9.38 ducats per month as our fleet maintenance. Now, when the new DLC comes out, because there is one that's been announced and I can't remember what it's called, it is possible to mothball certain fleets, so you could just reduce the maintenance right down on your heavies without having to destroy them, and that'll be fantastic when that gets implemented, but that's not going to be until the next DLC. So the best, at the moment, we're just playing with the Conquest of Paradise, which is the American DLC, the Wealth of Nations, which is the one that adds all of the better trade options, and Res Publica, which is the Dutch Republic ones. That's all the DLC that is available at the time of recording this video, and that's what I'm playing with. So what we're going to do is we're going to select those 14 heavy ships by clicking on them, and we're going to disband them because we don't really need them. And instantly that means that our fleet maintenance, well, it's not gone down yet because it hasn't ticked over, but we're now making money. The little red minus has gone to a green plus. Now, a couple of other things that we want to do. We've got some troops down here near the French. We have ourselves these 9 guys down here in Gascogne, and we have these 9 guys up here in Normandy. Now, the problem is this big stack of French troops is going to come across here and try and obliterate them. So what we want to do is we want to take our 21 light ships. We're going to send it down here into the Côte d'Argent and block the French fleet from leaving. The French fleet is made up of 2 heavies, 3 lights, and 4 transports. So we can easily defeat that with 21 lights. So that'll pin the French fleet in. We're going to take our 15 transports and we're going to land in Normandy as quick as we can and pick these guys up here. We also want to do a couple of things with our diplomats. The first thing we want to do is try and get an alliance with Castile. Now, they won't form an alliance with us straight away, but we can go into dynastic actions and offer them a royal marriage, and that will really help matters there. Secondly, we want to have a reason to try and fight against Scotland if possible. Try and take them on nice and early, get them subjugated, or we could do that with Ireland. So what we're going to do, Lothian is going to be one of our goals to form the British nation. So if we actually right click on Scotland and we want to go into covert actions and we want to fabricate a claim on... Oh, we don't actually have a claim on Lothian. Maybe we already have a core there. Let's have a look. If we left click... Do not have a... Is Lothian the capital? Yeah, Lothian's the capital, which is why we can't get the claim on Lothian. So we're going to do Ayrshire and work our way around. So... Or we could go straight for Aberdeen, actually. Aberdeen might be slightly better, but I feel it's easier to work your way up the coast and keep a hold of them that way. So we'll right-click, we'll fabricate a claim, and we will put the claim on... Actually, no, we will put the claim on Aberdeen. I'm sure we'll manage to get there. If we get discovered, we will gain 7.5 aggressive expansion. There's a 2.66% chance of being discovered each month, and it's going to take a year to do so. So let's get that started. So it's time to unpause the game. I'm going to basically leave it running at the slowest speed. Now, what I essentially want to do, there we go, the royal marriage has been accepted and approved by, I'm on the wrong map mode, by Castile. Now, what we will need to do then is send someone to offer an alliance, but we won't be able to do that until the 12th of December because you can only send a diplomat sort of once a month. So we really want to be careful with these guys. We want to try and make sure we can save them. Now, what we can do potentially here is we'll have to wait until our diplomat has returned home before we can do that. Now, as you can see, these French troops are now starting to move into Normandy. Now, they're going to arrive in Normandy on the 28th of November, and our transports are going to arrive on the 22nd of November. This is the reason why we moved the transports out as soon as we could. So on the 22nd of November, it's currently the 21st, and the 22nd. So because it's our land, we can actually dock there. We've landed. We're going to select those 9 troops. We're going to attach them to the transports. We're going to take the transports, and we are going to go straight out of there. In fact, we'll drop them in Kent. It's slightly quicker. So we've instantly taken those troops away from Normandy, and the French can't have them. Now, we are going to be allowing France to win this war. There's absolutely no point for us trying to fight them at this point. It is completely a waste of time in trying to do so. There's no point in us even bothering. So we're going to allow that to continue. The Royal Navy has safely arrived in Kent, and those soldiers get offloaded. So we're going to take those transports, and we are going to come down here to Gascogne to pick these guys up. Now, what we could do, if we notice that the French are starting to move towards us here, we can send a diplomat to Navarre and ask for military access, and we can move our men into Navarre, and hopefully the French won't be able to come there and fight. But they are actually starting to move some units in towards us. So what I am going to do, just for the time being, is I'm going to assign a leader. I'm going to assign Richard Plantagenet, because he's our best leader. And I'm going to get these guys to move not through Armagnac, so right-click on Le Bourg, so they go there first, and get them to go into Bern. If they do get attacked, they've got much more chance of surviving up in the mountains than they have anywhere else. As you can see here, these guys are trying to move in. They're going to arrive on the 9th of December. They're actually going to catch us, but they may get the crossing penalty here. Oh no, they didn't quite catch us there. So we are going to move up into the mountains where we will be fairly safe. They're just going to start trying to siege out our provinces. That is fine. So they didn't manage to catch us at this time. We can still rescue those troops, so we don't have to worry about too much. So we're just going to let the French siege out these provinces, and we can then get this war ended as soon as possible. Meanwhile, we're going to take this stack, and we are going to move them up into Yorkshire, so we can best deal with Scotland when the time comes. We have an alliance offer from Castile. Now, that's good. I should have actually put it through because the date's gone past, but they can send their diplomats, which they have done, which saves me with one there. Now, I could just roll in and try and attack these guys. The chances are I might possibly win, but there is a rather large French stack arriving here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a word with Navarre, and I'm going to ask them if I can have military access. They'll most certainly say yes, and they have done. Yep, there we go. So I'm going to move these guys over into Navarre, because Navarre does have a port and Bern doesn't. And just wait for them to get there. There. Oh, not quite. Now, we have actually docked here. We don't want to be docked there. We want to be out at sea. Big stack coming down, you see. Quite scary. When are these guys going to arrive? The 30th of December. There we go. They have arrived. And now what we can do is we can actually get them to move onto the boat. So we can't actually get the boat to dock because we don't have fleet basing rights, but because the boat is in the right sea, if we select our troops and right-click on the water, then our guys will actually move onto the boat. It takes them a little bit longer because they actually have to get in little boats and row their way out to the ship. It'd be quicker if you could just dock, but all we want to do is sort of pick them up. And I'll be much happier once they are there. So as you can see, the French are going to start sieging out our provinces. Let them. There'll be plenty of time to deal with France later. So we want to select our 15 transports, which we do, and we are going to bring these guys back and drop them all off at Wessex. And that's going to make life a little bit easier for us. I think what I'm going to do is move this stack of 9 into London. It's just too difficult, really, to take on France realistically, and it's probably a waste of time and manpower, so that's why we're ignoring them. We're going to group these guys together. I'm just going to let the French happily do that now. I might leave these guys here just to pin the French fleet in. Makes life a little bit easier for me. I'm getting a royal marriage offer from Portugal. Now, that's fine because we're already allied with them, so it doesn't count as an additional relationship. Currently, we are at 3 out of our 4 relations. That's because we have military access with Navarra. We don't need that military access with Navarra anymore, so what we can actually do is we can go into Navarra, we can go into diplomacy, and we can cancel our military access. So that will go through almost instantly. I don't actually think you get a pop-up for that. It should have actually gone straight through. So if we look now, yep, we only now have 2 out of our 4 relations. So we could have a few more diplomatic relations with other people. It's probably worth getting somebody else on side. But who do you side with? Burgundy is against us. France is against us. Scotland we're going to be taking for ourselves, so we don't have to worry too much about that. So let us merge these guys together, which we can do. Then we will just have 2 individual armies. We'll keep these guys down here at Wessex. That's absolutely fine for now. And we will unpause. So as you can see, the French are literally just sieging out all of the English territories overseas. Now, I don't think they can get to Calais because unless they have military access with Burgundy, they can't actually move through into Calais. But Burgundy might also try and claim Calais as well. Because if we left-click on Calais, we can see that England considers it to be a core province. Flanders considers it to be a core province, as does France and as does Burgundy. So there's every possibility later on that Burgundy and France will go to war over Calais. Same with Picardy, of course. That is also considered to be a Burgundian and a French core. So they could both go to war over that. If we go to show province... No, France, England and Normandy consider that to be a core. And this is one of the ways that you can actually defeat France in this game. Not by doing the initial 100 years war, but just attacking them bit by bit over time and getting them to release certain nations as independent nations. So, for example, what you could do is go to war with France when France has been formed. You could siege out these provinces here and you could get them to release Brittany, and Brittany could become your vassal. And then later on you could get them to release Normandy, and Normandy could become your vassal, and then Provence and all the other territories around. So there are definitely ways of dealing with France. Now, even though England are supposed to be one of the easiest nations to play in this game, France is also one of the scariest nations to go up against. They grow very big very quickly, and it makes them very, very difficult to deal with. It also would be a good idea if we just have a quick look at the Irish provinces and see who they are allied with. So Leinster have an alliance with Tyrone. Don't even know where Tyrone are. Where is Tyrone? Can I find it easily? And they're also enemies with Connacht as well. Tyrone is improving England's opinion of them. Okay. Munster is rivaled with Connacht, but doesn't have any allies. Connacht has a rival, but no allies. Ulster is allied with Leinster. Oh, of course, Ulster is Tyrone, isn't it? Yes. I always forget that if you actually zoom out, because Ulster is Tyrone. So a couple of these Irish nations are in an alliance together, but most of them are independent. We could actually start to fabricate claims on some of these. What we could do is we could fabricate a claim on Connacht because they don't have an alliance with anybody at the moment either. So let's go ahead and fabricate a claim on them with our other diplomat. Does tie our diplomats up for a while, but that does mean that we will have the option to start taking some of the Irish provinces as well. But I think we will start to do that in another video. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. I hope you are enjoying Europa Universalis IV, and hopefully you'll be able to pick up enough information from this video to be able to start to play the game for yourself. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye for now.